professor lectured on war strategy, then froze mid-slide when her name appeared as enemy commander. The lecture hall was large, bright, and quiet except for the soft hum of holographic projectors. Rows of young cadets sat straight in their seats, eyes forward, tablets resting on their laps. Some were nervous, some were bored. All of them knew they were listening to one of the most respected war strategists humanity had ever produced. Professor Alara Voss stood at the center of the room, calm and confident. She was not tall, not imposing, and she did not wear a uniform. Her gray coat was plain, her hair pulled back without care. Yet when she spoke, people listened. She had advised fleets, rewritten battle doctrine, and predicted wars years before they began. To the academy, she was a legend who preferred classrooms over command bridges. Behind her, a wide holographic slide showed a star system marked with glowing lines and moving symbols. "As you can see," Alara said, her voice steady, "wars are rarely won by strength alone. They are won by understanding how your enemy thinks before they act." She raised one hand and the display shifted. Fleets moved across the stars, some clashing, some retreating. "These formations failed because they assumed logic would be shared. It never is." The cadets nodded, typing notes. A few exchanged impressed looks. This was why they were here. Alara continued, walking slowly as she spoke. "When planning strategy, you must always ask one question first. What would I do if I were them?" The slide changed again. A red force collapsed into chaos, defeated by a smaller blue fleet. "This was not chance," she said. "It was prediction." She paused, letting the lesson sink in. Then the room flickered. At first, no one reacted. Holograms glitched sometimes. But the light dimmed, then brightened, and the image behind her froze. The moving fleet stopped mid-motion like statues caught in time. A soft alert sound echoed through the hall. Alara turned, frowning slightly. "That's strange," she said. She lifted her wrist to pause the system manually. Nothing happened. The slide shimmered, then wiped itself clean. For half a second, the display was empty. Then new text appeared. Large. Clear, red. "Enemy commander." Alara Voss' laughter broke out from a few seats. "Nice joke," someone muttered. "System error," another cadet said. Alara did not laugh. She stared at the words, her breath slowing. Her mind moved quickly, checking possibilities. Training simulation? Misfiled data? A prank? She had access to this system. She knew its limits. This was not something it should be able to do. Before she could speak, the slide changed again. A figure appeared. Human-shaped, standing before a field of stars. The face was blurred, distorted by static, but the posture was familiar. Too familiar. Data streamed beside the image. Battle outcomes. Victory rates. Tactical summaries. Every maneuver shown was perfect. Every decision was something Alara herself would have made. A cold feeling settled in her chest. The cadets began to whisper. "Is this part of the lesson? Is that her?" "That's impossible." Alara stepped back slowly. "End presentation," she said firmly. The system did not respond. Instead, a new line appeared beneath her name. "Status active, highly dangerous." The lights in the hall dimmed further. The doors at the back slid shut with a heavy sound. A sharp tone echoed as security protocols activated. Now the laughter stopped. A senior instructor stood up. "Professor, what is going on?" Alara opened her mouth, then closed it. She did not know what to say. Her heart was beating faster, but her face remained controlled. "I don't know," she said honestly. Another slide appeared. This one showed a distant star system marked with warning symbols. Casualty numbers scrolled down the side. Thousands, then tens of thousands. A label flashed. Recent engagement. Someone gasped. A cadet near the front whispered, "That system fell last week." Alara felt a sharp twist of fear. She recognized the pattern of the attack, the timing, the deception, the final strike. It was her strategy, one she had drafted years ago as a thought experiment. She had never shared it outside private archives. Yet, there it was, executed perfectly. "No," she murmured. The blurred figure on the display moved slightly. The static cleared just enough to show a partial face. The eyes were calm, focused. They looked like hers. Before Alara could react, armed guards rushed into the hall from hidden side doors. Their weapons were lowered, but ready. "Everyone remain seated," one of them ordered. The cadets froze, fear spreading fast. A voice came from the ceiling speakers, cold and controlled. "Professor Alara Voss, please step away from the platform and place your hands where we can see them." Elara slowly raised her hands. "This is a mistake," she said. "You know me." There was a pause. "We are aware," the voice replied. "That is why we are concerned." The display behind her changed again, now showing the long list of confirmed battles, each one marked with the same symbol, each one devastating. A final line appeared at the bottom. Projected human losses severe. Elara's mind raced. Someone was using her work. Someone had built a model of her thinking. Or worse. She took a careful breath. Panic would help no one. "I request access to the data source," she said clearly. "If this information exists, I can help you understand it." The guards exchanged looks. One of them spoke quietly into a wrist device. The voice from the speakers returned. "That decision is not yours to make." The cadets were being escorted out now, confusion and fear written on their faces. Some looked back at Elara, searching for reassurance. She gave them a small nod, though she did not feel steady at all. As the hall emptied, the doors sealed again. The guards moved closer, forming a circle around her. The slide zoomed in on the enemy commander's profile. "Enemy commander, Elara Voss. Operational range, unknown objective." Unknown Elara stared at her own name glowing in red light. For the first time in many years, she felt something she had taught others to avoid. She felt unprepared. Somewhere beyond known space, a fleet moved silently between the stars. Its commander stood alone on a dark bridge, watching the same symbol appear on a different screen. A human name. A human face. The commander allowed a faint, knowing smile. The lesson had begun. Elara sat in a small, dim room beneath the academy, the walls lined with glowing panels that recorded every image, every movement, every report. She was no longer in the lecture hall. The guards who had escorted her had disappeared behind a heavy, sliding door, leaving only a soft hum from the room's systems. Director Harlan Keene stood in front of her, hands folded, eyes sharp. He was a tall man, not imposing in a violent way, but in the kind of authority that made others obey without question. His expression was unreadable, but there was tension in his shoulders, a slight twitch in his jaw that betrayed concern. "Professor Voss," he began, voice quiet but firm, "we need to talk about what you just saw." Elara's mind was spinning. She had seen the profile, the red text, her own name. And now she was here, away from cadets, alone with the director. Nothing seemed real. "What is this?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. "Who is using my name?" Harlan motioned to a large panel in the center of the room. It lit up, showing a star map. Fleets moved across it, precise, controlled. The system displayed images of ships, explosions, and lines of attack that seemed too perfect to be human. And in the corner, small text read, "Enemy Commander, Elara Voss." Elara's hand rose slightly to touch the glass surface, but she pulled it back. This is not possible. That is my work. My strategies. No one else could. It can't be me." Harlan stepped closer. "It isn't impossible, Professor. It is real. And you need to understand that you are the template for what we are facing." The words hit her like ice. Template. Her mind moved to recall classified projects, old files she had seen long ago. The memory came back, faint and incomplete. Project Helix. A human experiment. Top secret. Closed decades ago. A program designed to train and replicate the minds of the most capable strategists. "You are saying I was cloned?" she whispered. Her voice was low, almost frightened. Harlan did not answer immediately. Instead, he pressed a small button, and a series of recorded transmissions appeared on the panels. One by one, videos of battles played, star systems exploded, fleets surrendered. Every maneuver used against humanity mirrored strategies Elara had developed, tested, and refined over years. Some she had shared with only a handful of colleagues. "This commander," Harlan said, "has your thought patterns, your predictions, your tactics, and it is winning every engagement." Elara leaned back against the wall, struggling to breathe steadily. It can't be me. I'm here. I am alive." "And yet," Harlan continued, "official records show you died 12 years ago during a deep space expedition." Elara froze. She remembered that mission. It had been dangerous. They had lost contact with the outside. Everyone assumed she had been killed. Officially? And yet she was here, alive, standing, teaching. "And this commander," Elara whispered, voice trembling slightly, "is doing exactly what I would do." Harlan nodded. "We have confirmation. Observers report the enemy moving with a precision we have never seen. Every fleet maneuver, every strike, It matches your documented strategies, but faster, sharper, unpredictable in ways only you would understand. Yet it anticipates every human response. Alara's hands clenched into fists. Her mind raced. A clone. A copy of her mind, designed to think faster, act smarter. Sent into deep space to fight humanity, trained to learn, evolve, and adapt without hesitation. And now it was back. She felt a cold weight settle in her chest. Why would anyone do this? Who would send a version of me to fight humans? Harlan's face hardened. The project was intended to prepare humanity for unknown threats. It was meant to teach us to survive, to adapt. But something went wrong. The clone survived beyond our control. It learned. It improved. And it returned. Not as a student, not as a soldier, but as an enemy commander. Alara's stomach twisted. An enemy of humans. Using my mind. Yes, Harlan said. And it's not just attacking fleets. It's shaping battles, reshaping systems, predicting every countermeasure. Its goal is unclear, but the results are devastating. Alara sat back in the chair, trying to process the information. 12 years. A clone of her mind, created in secret, surviving in deep space, learning, fighting, and now returning with intelligence, tactics, and ruthlessness that could destroy humanity. She looked at the panel again. The images of destroyed fleets, scorched planets, and fleeing civilians filled her vision. She remembered every drill, every scenario, every test she had designed, and now those lessons were turned against humanity. We have to stop it, she said. Her voice was low but firm. We have to understand it. If it knows me, if it thinks like me, then I can anticipate it. We can stop it. Harlan's eyes were hard. We've tried, Professor. The enemy commander anticipates everything. Every fleet we send, every tactic we deploy, it has already countered it. You may be the only one capable of predicting its next move. But even you cannot guarantee success. Alara closed her eyes. She tried to remember the mission that had supposedly killed her, the deep space expedition, the research station, the final transmission, the explosion. And then nothing. Memories felt wrong, incomplete. It was as if time itself had shifted. Mira Holt, a young analyst who had been called in to assist, entered the room quietly. Her face was pale but determined. Professor, we've analyzed communications, fleet data, and battle logs. Every prediction model confirms it. The enemy commander moves exactly like you would, only more efficient, faster, adaptive. And every tactic we've seen, it has been refined beyond anything you've taught. Alara looked at Mira, then back at Harlan. How long has it been doing this? Years, Harlan said. We only realized the connection recently. Fleet losses increased exponentially. When we matched the strategies, we discovered the clone's patterns. That's why you saw it today, in the lecture hall. The weight of the realization pressed down on her. Years of war, thousands of lives lost, and she had been unaware. Teaching, living, while somewhere out there a copy of her mind had been practicing war against her own people. Mira stepped closer. Professor, if you want, I can show you the full archive. Every battle, every prediction, every maneuver, you will see it for yourself. You will understand how it thinks. Alara nodded slowly. Do it. The room's lights dimmed further and the panels shifted. A stream of battle logs, star maps, and communications flooded the walls. Every engagement, from small skirmishes to massive fleet battles, was displayed. Each entry was annotated with predictions, outcomes, and efficiency ratings, and each one carried the signature of her own strategic style. Alara's eyes moved quickly, scanning the data. Every decision, every choice, every maneuver, it matched her thinking. But there was something different. A cold precision, a ruthlessness that she had never allowed herself. This isn't just me, she said softly. This is something else. Something better than me. Faster, sharper, without mercy. Harlan's voice was grave. Yes, it has learned. And it will continue to learn. That is why we need you to confront it, understand it. If anyone can stop it, it is you. Alara's mind raced. She had always taught that understanding the enemy was key. But now, the enemy was herself, or at least a version of herself. Every lesson she had taught was now a weapon against humanity. Every theory she had written was being used in real time. She felt a strange combination of fear and determination. Fear for the lives lost, for the systems already destroyed, Determination because she realized that she had the unique insight to predict the enemy's next move. "What about the fleets?" she asked. "Do we have any chance of holding them off?" Harlan shook his head. "Not without your insight. Every conventional tactic fails. Every maneuver is countered. Only by thinking like the enemy, like you, can we hope to survive." Alara's hands rested on the edge of the console. She could see the thousands of lives affected by this war, and she realized something even more chilling. The enemy commander was not just fighting to destroy, it was teaching. Testing. Forcing humanity to respond in ways it never had before. Mira spoke again. "Professor, we've also noticed communication patterns. The enemy commander sometimes sends messages, short, cryptic. It is almost like it wants you to understand something, like it is waiting for you." Alara's mind paused, waiting. For her? A version of herself? That thought was terrifying, and yet it gave her hope. If it wanted her, if it anticipated her, then maybe she could turn the situation to humanity's advantage. Harlan's eyes were steady. "We need you to act carefully. The stakes are higher than ever. If the enemy commander anticipates your every move, one wrong step could cost thousands, maybe millions of lives." Alara took a deep breath. She was a teacher, a strategist, and a soldier. And now she faced herself, not just as a memory or an idea, but as a living, active force. A commander who had learned, adapted, and evolved beyond anything she had expected. Her first instinct was fear. Her second instinct was calculation. She would need every lesson she had taught, every strategy she had written, and every intuition she had developed. And yet, she knew something important. She had one advantage. She was human. And even a perfect copy could never truly replicate every human thought, every choice, every flaw that sometimes led to brilliance. Alara looked at the panels again. The enemy commander's moves filled the walls, the destruction, the precision, the cold efficiency, and she made a decision. She would confront this version of herself. She would study it, predict it, and she would find a way to stop it, even if it meant putting herself in danger. She straightened in her chair. Her voice was steady, firm. "Show me everything," she said. "I need to know how it thinks. Every detail, every battle, every choice. If humanity has any chance, we start now." Harlan nodded. Mira began feeding data streams, tactical records, and intercepted transmissions. Panels shifted endlessly, revealing layers of information, some of which even Alara had never seen. As the hours passed, she pored over every detail. Her mind worked at full speed. She noticed patterns, tendencies, and choices that even the enemy commander had not yet refined. And a thought slowly emerged in her mind. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way to outthink it. But even as hope grew, the weight of reality pressed down. The enemy commander had her name, her mind, her strategies. Humanity's survival rested on her ability to outthink a version of herself, faster, stronger, and without mercy. And for the first time in 12 years, Alara understood the full scope of what she was up against. The battle was not just in space, it was in the mind, and she had only just begun. Alara studied the data streams that flooded the walls of the intelligence room. Each transmission from the enemy commander was precise, calculated, and efficient. Every fleet movement, every strike, every retreat, she could see the mind behind it. And that mind was hers, or at least a version of hers. But there was something chilling. It was better than her. Faster, sharper, and without hesitation. Mira Holt sat nearby, eyes glued to her own screen. "Professor, look at this," she said. "Every prediction we make, the enemy counters it, and when we change tactics, it adapts immediately. Nothing works the way it should." Alara leaned closer, studying the map. Stars, ships, and attack vectors moved across the panels like a living organism. Each system was marked, every fleet numbered, every casualty recorded. It was overwhelming, and yet patterns emerged. Even the most advanced mind could not act without flaws. "They are anticipating us because they know us," Alara said, her voice quiet but firm. "They know how I think, how we think, and they are using it against us." Mira nodded slowly. "It is like fighting yourself, but better." Alara closed her eyes for a moment. She remembered her years of teaching, of creating strategies, of preparing human fleets for conflicts that never came, and now those lessons were being turned into a weapon against her own people, against humanity. A soft chime interrupted their focus. Harlan Keene appeared on the wall panel. Professor, we've received reports from Captain Ren Calder. His fleet has been engaged near the Voran Expanse. They are trapped, outnumbered. And the enemy is using strategies that mirror yours perfectly. Elara's stomach tightened. Captain Calder was one of the Academy's best, brave, intelligent, and experienced. But he was facing something that knew exactly how he would act. Every plan, every maneuver anticipated. It was a trap. "Show me the battle logs," she said. The panels shifted. Ships of humanity moved into the system, confident in their numbers and firepower. But the enemy commander's forces waited, perfectly positioned, predicting every move. Calder's fleet split to flank. The enemy predicted it. Calder tried retreat. The enemy anticipated it. Ships were destroyed in silence, one by one. Thousands of lives lost before a single decision could change the outcome. Elara's hands clenched. She had never seen tactics executed with such perfect understanding of human thought. The clone, or whatever it was, did not hesitate. It did not panic. It was flawless. And it was learning. Mira's voice was tense. "Professor, we've never seen anything like this. It's almost as if it can read human intention." "That's exactly it," Elara said. "It can read human intention because it is human. Or at least, it was human once. Every choice we make is predictable to it. But no mind is perfect. It will make mistakes. I just need to find where." Harlan's face appeared on the panel again, looking grim. "Professor, time is critical. Calder's fleet cannot hold much longer. We may lose the system if no immediate action is taken." Elara studied the maps, tracing paths with her finger. She noticed small inconsistencies, tiny delays in fleet responses, slight deviations in attack patterns. They were almost invisible, but they were there. "It's testing us," she murmured. "It's not just fighting to destroy. It's testing. Forcing us to react. Forcing us to evolve." Mira frowned. "Testing? Why would an enemy do that?" Elara shook her head slowly. "Because that is what we designed. Or at least, part of it. Project Helix. The idea was to create a mind capable of adapting, learning, and evolving faster than any threat. But I never imagined it would be used this way. And now it is." Harlan's expression hardened. "Professor, we can't wait for explanations. Calder's fleet is in danger. If you have a plan, now is the time." Elara focused, her mind moving through every possible scenario. She visualized the system, imagining herself in Calder's position. She thought about the enemy commander's likely responses, and then slowly an idea formed. "It's predictable because it anticipates logic," she said. "But no mind, no matter how perfect, can predict irrationality, emotion, chaos, imperfection. That is where we can strike." Mira looked confused. "Are you suggesting we act randomly?" Elara shook her head. "Not randomly. Strategically unpredictable. We create a pattern that looks logical but is intentionally flawed. Something the enemy will misread, miscalculate. That's our only advantage." Harlan's face was tense. "Professor, that could work, or it could make things worse." "Calder's fleet. I know the risk," Elara said firmly. "But it's the only chance we have. We have to act in a way the commander cannot anticipate. That means using human unpredictability against it." Mira began inputting new commands, her fingers moving quickly over the panels. "I'll prepare the fleets according to your plan, but this will require full coordination." She imagined Calder's fleet, the enemy commander, and herself. It was like a chessboard, and every piece moved perfectly. But there was one thing the enemy had not calculated: the human element. Fear, courage, mistakes, creativity. "Professor," Mira said, "the fleet is ready. Calder is waiting for guidance. We need to act now." Elara took a deep breath. "Send my instructions. Every maneuver. Every diversion. But make sure the enemy sees them as standard strategy. Let them believe they can predict us." And then she paused, thinking. "Then we introduce the element they cannot calculate." Harlan's face appeared again, silent for a long moment. "This is risky," he said. "If it fails, we lose Calder's fleet entirely." Elara nodded. "I know. But if we succeed, we gain more than just one battle. We gain knowledge. And knowledge is power against an enemy like this." She turned her attention back to the panels, studying every movement, every formation. Her mind raced. For years she had trained cadets to predict enemy movements. Now she had to predict the movements of a mind that was her own, but faster and sharper. She imagined herself in the enemy commander's place, anticipating every step she might take, and then deliberately taking a step she thought the commander would never expect. Mira's voice broke her concentration. Instructions sent. Calder's fleet is executing the plan. The panels showed movement immediately. Human ships veered, split, and shifted as if following a new logic. The enemy commander reacted, but not perfectly. A subtle delay. A slight hesitation. One attack formation faltered. Alara's heart raced. "It's working," she whispered. "It's reacting, but it didn't predict everything." That's our opening. The battle continued, ships moving in patterns that seemed illogical but were carefully planned. Explosions lit up the holographic system, fleets breaking apart, escaping or countering unexpectedly. The enemy commander adjusted instantly, but each adjustment revealed another weakness, another pattern. Mira watched silently, eyes wide. "I can't believe this is happening," she said. We're holding our own." Alara's mind never stopped. Every move by the enemy was analyzed, every pattern checked. She noticed that the enemy commander hesitated slightly whenever an attack involved civilians or neutral zones. That hesitation could be exploited. She focused on it. "Target the areas it cannot act against without restraint," she said. "Force it to make a choice, and in that choice, we strike." The human fleets responded. Ships moved in synchronized chaos, attacking, retreating, feinting, and misleading. For the first time in years, the enemy commander faltered. A strike was miscalculated. A fleet escaped destruction. A system survived. Alara allowed herself a small, cautious breath. "It can be beaten," she said. "Not destroyed, but contained. It's learning, yes, but every mind has limits. Every mind makes mistakes." Harlan's expression softened slightly. "Professor, this is incredible. You've done what no one else could. You're turning the tide." Alara did not respond immediately. She watched the panels, analyzing every movement, every choice. This was only one battle, one system, but it was proof. Proof that humanity could survive. Proof that even a perfect mind could be challenged by human unpredictability. And she felt exhaustion creeping in. 12 years had passed since her disappearance. 12 years had changed her, but not her instincts. She had always relied on analysis, intuition, and understanding human nature. And now, that was exactly what was saving lives. Mira spoke softly. "Professor, do you think it understands us? Really understands us?" Alara shook her head. "It thinks it does. But thinking and knowing are different. It can predict patterns, but it cannot understand choice, emotion, or sacrifice. That is what gives humans the edge. That is what will keep us alive." The enemy commander's forces began to withdraw from the system, regrouping in distant sectors. Human ships held their positions, damaged but not destroyed. A small victory. But Alara knew it was only temporary. Harlan's voice came over the panel one last time. "Professor, the Academy is relying on you. Humanity is relying on you. Can you do this again?" Alara looked at the maps, the stars, the surviving fleets. She felt the weight of the war pressing down on her. But she also felt determination. Fear would not stop her. She had faced herself, and she had found a way to fight back. "Yes," she said, her voice steady. "I can do this again. And next time, we will not just hold. We will gain the advantage. We will show the enemy commander that humanity is more than prediction. We are choice, creativity, and resilience. We are unpredictable, and that is what it cannot fight." Even as she spoke, she knew the true challenge had only begun. The enemy commander was still out there, learning, adapting, evolving, but now Alara had a plan. And for the first time, she felt hope. The war was not over. But humanity had found its first victory, not in strength, but in mind. Alara sat alone in the command room, her eyes fixed on the star map projected before her. The battle in the Voran expanse had ended, but the war itself had only just begun. Human fleets were damaged, systems were vulnerable, and every loss weighed heavily on her mind. She could feel it. The clone, the enemy commander, was watching, learning, waiting. Every move she had made, every tactic employed had been observed and recorded. Mira Holt worked beside her, fingers moving rapidly over her tablet, analyzing the aftermath of the engagement. "Professor," she said quietly. "The enemy commander retreated, but it didn't just withdraw. It repositioned. I think it's studying us now, learning from what we did." Alara nodded. "Of course it is. Every action we take is data. Every decision we make is being analyzed. That is what makes it dangerous. It's not just fighting us. It's improving with each encounter. Harlan Keene entered the room without knocking. His face was drawn, eyes shadowed with worry. Professor, the situation has changed. We have intelligence reports from multiple sectors. Several border systems are under attack simultaneously. The enemy commander is striking in a way that forces us to respond everywhere at once. It's a coordinated effort, and it is spreading faster than we expected. Alara studied the projections. Ships moved between systems like a swarm, striking quickly, retreating before retaliation could be effective. It was familiar, her own style, her own thinking, but amplified, perfected, and relentless. This is no longer just about defeating fleets, Alara said. Her voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. It is about control. It wants to test us, to force humanity into a corner, and it is using my mind to do it. Harlan frowned. But why? Why would it attack humanity in this way? It is a copy of you, yet it is against us. What is the goal? Alara leaned back in her chair, thinking, I don't know yet, but we need to understand it before it forces humanity into a trap we cannot escape. Mira's fingers hovered over the holographic interface. Professor, we've been analyzing communication signals intercepted from the enemy. Some of them are encrypted, some fragmented, but there is a pattern. It's almost as if the commander is sending messages specifically for you. And maybe it wants you to understand something? Alara frowned. Messages for me? Why would it do that? To taunt me? To teach me? Or to draw me in? Harlan's voice was steady but serious. We don't have time for speculation. Calder's fleet is regrouping, but other sectors are being overrun. We need a plan. And we need you to create it. Alara turned back to the star map, her mind racing. She thought about Project Helix, about the experiment that had created the enemy commander. She remembered the mission that had supposedly killed her 12 years ago, and she realized something terrifying. The clone had learned to survive, to adapt, and now it had returned not just as an enemy, but as a teacher of war. This commander, she said slowly, it isn't attacking randomly. It is testing human responses. It wants to see how we react, how we think, how we adapt. And it is pushing us to evolve through conflict. Mira looked shocked. So it's not trying to destroy us? It's teaching us? Alara nodded. In a way. But it doesn't care about casualties. It sees humanity as a subject. Every loss, every victory, every decision is data for it. And it is perfecting itself with that data. Harlan's expression darkened. That's horrifying. It's like fighting yourself, only better and more dangerous. Yes, Alara said. But we can use that. We can anticipate its thinking because we know it is using mine. And we can exploit the one thing it cannot predict. Mira frowned. And that is? Human choice, Alara replied. I'm perfection. Emotion. Creativity. Laws. Even the most perfect mind cannot account for the unpredictable nature of human decision-making. Harlan looked skeptical. That's risky. If we miscalculate, we could lose entire sectors. Alara's eyes were steady. I know, but if we don't act, we lose anyway. The only chance we have is to force the enemy commander to confront the unpredictable. To make choices it cannot calculate. That is our advantage. She turned back to the panels, tracing fleet movements, enemy positions in vulnerable systems. She saw patterns in the chaos, subtle weaknesses that had not been exploited. And she knew she could use them. Mira's voice was tense. Professor, if we use your method, we have to coordinate every fleet, every sector. Every system must act in sync, even if it seems chaotic. That's impossible. Alara shook her head. Not impossible. Strategic chaos is still controlled. We create the illusion of randomness, but every move is deliberate. The enemy commander will misinterpret it, miscalculate, and we will gain an advantage. Harlan's voice was cautious. And what about Calder's fleet? They are still recovering from the last engagement. Can they handle this? Yes, Alara said firmly. They will adapt. Humans are resilient. They will survive if they follow the plan. She studied the star map for hours, plotting every possible move, every counter, every response. Mira and Harlan watched silently as she worked, adjusting, recalculating, predicting. Her mind moved faster than the holographic data could display, seeing patterns that no one else could. Finally, she looked up. It's ready, she said. We have a plan, but it will require every human mind involved to act unpredictably, yet deliberately. We will create a situation that the enemy commander cannot fully anticipate, and that will give us the opening we need. Mira nodded slowly. Professor. I will relay the instructions to every fleet. Calder's fleet is ready to move on your command. Alara studied the map one last time. She imagined the enemy commander watching, learning, predicting. She imagined the clone thinking through her strategies, anticipating her next move. And she realized something important. No mind, no matter how perfect, could predict the human spirit, the capacity for creativity, courage, and resilience. Send the orders, she said finally. Mira pressed the interface, transmitting the new plan to all fleets. Ships shifted positions, fleets split, and maneuvers that seemed illogical began to unfold. The enemy commander reacted instantly, adjusting formations, attacking where it expected weaknesses. But subtle flaws, carefully placed, began to appear. Alara watched closely. A strike was miscalculated. A fleet moved faster than expected. A system survived an attack that should have been devastating. The enemy commander hesitated for the first time in months. Harlan's voice broke the tense silence. Professor, it's faltering. The commander is reacting, but not perfectly. We're gaining an advantage. Ilara's heart raced. It's working, she whispered. It is learning, yes, but it cannot predict human unpredictability. That is our edge. The battle continued, ships moving in a coordinated chaos that the enemy commander could not fully interpret. Explosions lit up the holographic display as fleets engaged, retreated, and attacked in patterns designed to confuse and mislead. Mira watched silently. I can't believe this. We're actually holding our own. Alara did not respond. Her mind was focused, calculating the next moves, anticipating the enemy commander's responses, and planning for the unexpected. She noticed something subtle. The enemy commander hesitated whenever human lives were at risk. It had been programmed to avoid unnecessary destruction of civilians or neutral zones. That hesitation could be exploited. Target the areas it cannot act against without hesitation, she said softly. Force it to make a choice. And in that choice, the human fleets responded. Ships moved in synchronized chaos, attacking, retreating, feinting, and misleading. And once again, the enemy commander faltered, miscalculating a strike. A system survived, a fleet escaped, a victory was achieved. Alara allowed herself a small, cautious breath. She had done it. Humanity had survived, and, more importantly, the enemy commander had been shown that human unpredictability could not be perfectly calculated. Harlan's face appeared on the panel again. Professor, this is remarkable. You've done what no one else could. You've turned the tide. Alara shook her head. This is only the beginning. The enemy commander is still out there, learning, evolving. But now we know one important truth. It can be challenged, and we can fight back. Mira looked at her with wide eyes. Professor, do you really think we can stop it completely? Alara studied the star map one last time. I don't know. But I do know this. Humanity is not predictable. It is resilient, creative, brave. That is what gives us a chance. And that is what the enemy commander cannot fully understand. The war was far from over. The enemy commander had her mind, her strategies, her knowledge. But humans had something even stronger. Choice, courage, and the capacity to act in ways no machine, no clone could ever fully predict. Alara felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. Thousands, perhaps millions of lives depended on her next moves. And yet, for the first time, she felt hope. Hope that humanity could survive. Hope that they could adapt. Hope that they could fight back against a perfect mind using their own strategies against them. The room was silent except for the hum of the holographic panels. Ships continued to move across the star map. Systems were damaged, fleets were recovering, but humanity had held. And Alara knew, deep in her mind, that this was only the first step in a long and dangerous war. The enemy commander was still out there, watching, learning, adapting. But now, humanity had learned something too. Even a perfect mind could not predict the unpredictable, and that would be their weapon. Alara sat in the quiet command room, staring at the star maps before her. The battles in the outer systems had slowed for now, but she knew it was only temporary. The enemy commander was out there, learning, adapting, watching every move, every fleet, every strategy, every adjustment. It was all data for the mind that had once been her. Mira Holt tapped nervously on her tablet. Professor, we've intercepted a transmission. It's from the enemy commander. Direct, clear. Not a battle message, but a message for you. Alara's eyes narrowed. A message for me? Yes, Mira said. It's encrypted, but the language is human. It would be familiar. And the patterns They match your own style of coding. Alara leaned forward, studying the readout. The message was short, almost cryptic. It did not demand battle. It did not threaten. It asked questions. Questions only she could understand. Harlan Keene appeared on the panel. Professor, what is it? What does it want? Lara shook her head. I don't know yet. But it is inviting me to think, to respond. That is dangerous. And it is an opportunity. Mira glanced nervously at the panel. Opportunity? You mean to communicate? Yes, Alara said, but carefully it wants me to understand something. Maybe it wants to teach, maybe to test, but we cannot ignore it. The enemy commander is far too clever. Ignoring communication could cost more lives than engaging it carefully. Harlan frowned. Engaging? How do you mean? You want to talk to it? Alara's gaze did not leave the screen. Yes. In a way. Strategically. Not like a diplomat, but like a strategist. We can learn more from its intentions than from its attacks alone. But we must be precise. Every word, every pattern, every move must be controlled. This is no ordinary message. This is an extension of the mind that is using my strategies against humanity. Mira nodded slowly. So we respond? Yes, Alara said. But in a controlled way. One that reveals nothing unnecessary. One that tests its intentions. We have to understand why it fights, what it wants, and maybe why it is using my mind. Harlan's face was tense. This is risky. If it misreads our response, it could attack harder, faster, in ways we cannot predict. Calder's fleet, every fleet, could be in danger. I understand, Alara said firmly. Cool. But if we never communicate, we remain blind. And that is worse. We need knowledge as much as we need fleets, and the enemy commander holds knowledge we cannot ignore. Mira began composing a response, following Alara's instructions precisely. Every word was calculated, every code pattern deliberate. It was a test, a probe, and an attempt to gain insight into the mind that had once been her own. As the message was sent, Alara felt a chill. She knew that somewhere in deep space, a mind that mirrored hers was reading it, analyzing it, predicting her next move. And yet she also knew that the human element, the capacity for unpredictability, for creativity, for emotion, was something the enemy could not fully calculate. Minutes passed. Then a reply arrived. Alara read it slowly. It was calm, measured, and precise. It did not boast. It did not threaten. It only asked questions. Questions about humanity, about strategy, about choice, about morality. Questions that only she could answer. It wants a conversation, she said softly. It wants me to think with it, not just against it. This is extraordinary. Harlan's voice was cautious. Extraordinary, yes, but dangerous. We cannot forget it is still our enemy. Thousands, maybe millions of lives are at stake. I know, Alara said, but understanding is the first step to control. Knowledge is power, and if we can understand its reasoning, we can anticipate its next move. Mira looked at her in awe. Professor, it's almost like it's testing you. Not just humanity, but you, personally. Why you think, why you act. It's learning from you. Learning faster than we can. Yes, Alara said. It is testing me. But that also gives us a chance. If it wants to test, then it reveals its thought process. If we can trace it, analyze it, understand it, we can gain insight that no one else could. Harlan stepped closer to the panel. Professor, the fleets are waiting. Calder's fleet is ready to engage again. Do we continue the strategy of unpredictable movement, or do we focus on this conversation? Alara paused, thinking carefully. Both. We maintain unpredictable maneuvers in the field. The fleets cannot pause. Lives are at stake. But this conversation, this exchange, can give us insight that fleets cannot. Knowledge gained now can prevent greater losses later. Mira nodded, typing rapidly. I will continue relaying instructions to the fleets. Every movement will follow the plan. Unpredictable, deliberate chaos, but safe as much as possible. Alara studied the star map. She imagined the enemy commander, reading her response, anticipating the next step. She knew it would adapt, evolve, learn from the communication, and she also knew that this was exactly what she wanted. She wanted the clone to reveal patterns, tendencies, limitations. You have to understand, she said softly to Mira. The commander is brilliant. Faster than any human mind. Perfectly rational. But it cannot feel fear. It cannot weigh the cost of every life, and it cannot fully understand the chaos humans create when emotion, courage, and instinct intervene. That is the key. That is where we can outmaneuver it. Mira looked uneasy. But, Professor, what if we fail? If the fleets fail, if the systems fall, what then? Alara's eyes were calm, unwavering. Then we learn. Humanity always learns. And we adapt. That is what makes us strong. That is what the enemy cannot replicate perfectly. We will not fail completely, because failure is never total when humans are involved. Every action, every choice, every risk teaches us something. And knowledge is more powerful than victory alone. Harlan's expression softened slightly. You are remarkable, Professor. I don't know if I would have the courage to face this mind, knowing it is a version of yourself. And yet, you remain calm, calculating, determined. Alara shook her head. It is not courage. It is necessity. The enemy commander is using my mind against humanity. That is why I must act, not just to save fleets, but to understand, anticipate, and prepare. If I fail, many will die. If I succeed, we gain knowledge we cannot imagine. Mira glanced at the panels again. Professor, the enemy commander is moving again. Systems are under threat. It's as if it knows we are communicating. As if it wants to see our response. Alara nodded. Exactly. That is the point. By communicating carefully, deliberately, we force it to reveal something. Every action it takes to respond to our message is data. Every choice is insight. And we will use that insight to plan our next move. Harlan's voice was firm. Then it is agreed. We continue the plan. Fleets move unpredictably but deliberately, and we continue the exchange carefully. Strategically. Every word, every move, every calculation matters. Alara turned her attention to the star map, tracing fleet movements, enemy positions, and potential vulnerabilities. She visualized the enemy commander, reading the message, analyzing the responses, predicting the next step. And she smiled faintly. They cannot predict everything, she said softly. Not human choice, not courage, not instinct. That is where we will find the opening. Mira's voice was quiet. Professor, the message, it's asking something new now. It's asking why humans fight, why we risk lives, why we act when logic suggests otherwise. Only you can answer this. Alara thought carefully before responding. She typed slowly, deliberately, every word chosen to reveal insight but not weakness. We fight because survival is not enough. We fight because we choose to protect others, because we adapt, because we imagine a future worth living. Logic guides us, but heart drives us. And that is why humans cannot be predicted perfectly. Minutes passed. Then the enemy commander replied. For the first time, the message was not a test, not a taunt, not an attack. It was contemplative. It acknowledged the insight, the difference between prediction and choice, between strategy and instinct. Alara felt a small surge of hope. The clone, the enemy commander, was not invincible. It could adapt, it could learn, but it could not replicate the unpredictability of human will. Harlan's voice broke the silence. Professor, that was extraordinary. You've done what no one else could. You've reached it, reasoned with it, and taught it something it could not anticipate. Alara shook her head. Not taught. Revealed. It will still fight, still adapt, still challenge us. But now we know something crucial. It cannot fully predict the human mind. And that gives humanity a chance. A real chance. Mira smiled faintly. Then we continue. We adapt, we fight, we learn. And maybe, just maybe, we can turn this war in our favor. Alara nodded. Her eyes returned to the star map. Systems, fleets, enemy positions, all moving, all alive with the threat of destruction. The enemy commander was still out there, learning, evolving, and waiting. But humanity had discovered something vital. The mind that was her own was brilliant, but it could not surpass human unpredictability entirely. And that was the key to survival. The war was far from over. But for the first time, Alara felt that humanity had a fighting chance. A chance to outthink, outmaneuver, and survive the mind that had once been hers. The message exchange had revealed insight. The fleets had survived through unpredictability. And for the first time, the enemy commander was forced to confront the limitations of its own perfection. Alara leaned back in her chair. The war continued. But humanity, unpredictable, creative, and courageous, would continue to fight. And that was something no clone, no matter how perfect, could fully calculate. Alara sat quietly in the command room, staring at the star map that stretched across the walls like a living battlefield. The war had reached a turning point. For weeks, humanity had struggled to hold its own against the enemy commander, the clone of her own mind. Now, after careful study, calculated risk, and careful communication, they had an advantage. A fragile, hard-won advantage, but a real one. Mira Holt worked beside her, monitoring fleet movements and system statuses. Her fingers moved quickly, relaying updates, confirming positions, and adjusting trajectories. "Professor," she said, "the fleets are ready. Every system is in position. Calder's fleet is recovered. We can strike now if you give the command." Alara studied the holographic display. Ships moved in coordinated chaos, unpredictable but deliberate, drawing the enemy into positions she had predicted. The enemy commander had adapted, learned, and countered before, but even a mind as perfect as hers could not anticipate the full range of human unpredictability. This was their opening. Harlan Keene entered the room quietly. His face was tense, but there was hope in his eyes. "Professor, are you sure about this? This is the moment. One wrong move, and thousands of lives could be lost." Alara nodded slowly. "I am sure. We cannot win by hiding or hesitating. The enemy commander is brilliant, yes, but it is not perfect. It cannot fully predict courage, instinct, or the human spirit. That is what we are counting on." Mira tapped rapidly on her tablet. "All systems are synchronized. Calder's fleet is in position. All fleets are ready for coordinated engagement. The enemy commander is moving, but it is responding, not initiating. That means we control the pace." Alara took a deep breath. "Good. Then we begin." The command room fell silent except for the hum of the systems and the soft taps of fingers on tablets. The fleets moved as one, following the patterns Alara had calculated. Ships split and merged, feigned retreats, and shifted formations in ways that seemed illogical but were entirely deliberate. The enemy commander responded immediately, attacking the systems it predicted would be vulnerable. But Alara had prepared for this. Every feint, every false weakness, was a trap designed to expose the one thing it could not calculate: human choice. A report came in from Calder. His voice was steady, professional, but there was tension beneath it. "Professor, enemy movements are as predicted. They are reacting to our maneuvers, but they are miscalculating. One sector shows a vulnerability. Our forces can exploit it." Alara nodded. "Good. Focus all forces on that sector. Maintain the illusion of retreat elsewhere. The commander will follow where it expects advantage, and we will control the outcome." Harlan's voice was quiet, almost reverent. "You are leading them, Professor. Not just fleets, but the mind itself. It is incredible." Alara did not respond. Her eyes were locked on the panels, watching the enemy commander move, tracking its decisions, predicting its adaptations, and preparing the next step. She felt a cold thrill. This was a mind like hers, brilliant, precise, and ruthless. But it could be challenged. It could be outmaneuvered. And now, humanity had the advantage. The fleets converged on the targeted sector. Ships moved with precision, striking hard and fast. The enemy commander reacted, but not perfectly. Its forces faltered for the first time in months. A fleet was trapped, a system was defended successfully, and the enemy's calculations were revealed as imperfect. Mira's voice was tense but excited. "Professor, it's working. They're faltering. The commander is miscalculating." Alara allowed herself a small, cautious smile. "Good. Keep pressure here, but maintain the unpredictability. Do not let them recover." The battle continued, ships weaving through the stars, engaging, retreating, and striking again. Explosions lit the holographic map, systems erupted in simulated destruction, and fleets moved like living creatures in a carefully orchestrated chaos. Messages from the enemy commander arrived, short and calculated, almost like questions testing humanity's responses. Alara read them quickly, interpreting each one, anticipating what the mind would do next, and directing human forces accordingly. Hours passed. The enemy commander adapted, yes, but each adaptation revealed a weakness. Each choice it made to counter the human fleets exposed patterns, tendencies, and predictable assumptions. Even a mind as perfect as hers could not fully escape the unpredictability of living, breathing humans. Calder's fleet moved decisively, striking a key position. The enemy commander hesitated. The hesitation was brief, almost imperceptible, but it was enough. A system was secured. Ships were saved. A victory had been achieved. Harlan spoke softly, almost in disbelief. "Professor, you've done it. Calder's fleet is holding. The sector is secure. For the first time, the enemy commander is reacting, not dictating. Alara's eyes remained focused. It is not over. The enemy is still learning, still adapting, but we have proven something critical. It is not perfect. It cannot predict everything, and it cannot fully control human choice. Mira looked at her wide-eyed. So we can win? Alara shook her head slowly. Not yet, but we can survive. And survival is the first step toward victory. Humanity learns, adapts, and grows. That is something no mind, no matter how brilliant, can fully calculate. Messages continued to flow from the enemy commander. They were less aggressive now, almost contemplative. The mind was learning not just about tactics, but about humans themselves, about choice, courage, and unpredictability. Alara studied each one carefully, responding in a measured way. Every reply, every fleet movement was designed to teach the enemy commander a single lesson. Humans are unpredictable. Humans cannot be perfectly predicted. Humans will fight in ways that cannot be calculated. Harlan spoke quietly. Professor, it is remarkable. You've reached it. Not just as an enemy, but as a mind. You are teaching it, testing it, and challenging it at the same time. Alara nodded. Yes. But we must remain vigilant. It will continue to adapt. The war is far from over. But now, humanity has something it didn't have before. Insight, knowledge, and the confidence to act in ways the enemy cannot predict. Mira glanced at the panels. Professor, all fleets are reporting stability. The enemy commander is withdrawing from key positions. It's retreating, reorganizing, but not destroying. This is unprecedented. Alara allowed herself a breath. Good. Let them regroup. Let them learn from their mistakes. But we will continue to challenge them. Every engagement is an opportunity to reveal their limitations. Every action is a lesson in unpredictability. Harlan's voice was steady. Professor, what now? What is our next move? Alara turned to the star map, tracing fleet movements and enemy positions. We continue to fight. We continue to learn. Every system, every fleet, every engagement must be treated as a lesson. We adapt faster than they can. We act with courage, instinct, and creativity. And we force the enemy commander to confront the reality it cannot calculate. Humanity is not predictable. Humanity will not be controlled. Mira looked at her with awe. Professor, you've done more than lead fleets. You've changed the course of this war. You've shown humanity a way to survive against a mind that mirrors us. Alara shook her head slowly. I have done what I could. But the true strength lies with humans everywhere. Every choice, every act of courage, every unpredictable move matters. That is what will save us. That is what will allow humanity to endure. Harlan's expression softened. Then we continue. We fight. We adapt. We survive. Alara studied the star map one last time. Systems were damaged, fleets were tired, but humanity had survived a decisive engagement. The enemy commander had been challenged, forced to make mistakes, and reminded that perfection could never overcome unpredictability. Remember this, Alara said quietly. This is not the end. The enemy commander is still out there, learning, adapting, evolving. But now we know our strength. Choice, courage, and unpredictability. That is what makes humans unbeatable in ways no mind can fully calculate. Mira nodded. And we will continue to fight, no matter what. Yes, Alara said. We will continue. And one day, humanity will not just survive. We will win. Not because we are perfect. Not because we are faster or stronger. But because we are unpredictable. And that is something no clone, no matter how brilliant, can ever truly overcome. The star map glowed softly in the quiet command room. Ships moved across it like living creatures. Systems were being rebuilt, fleets reorganized, and humanity held its ground. The enemy commander remained out there, observing, learning, adapting. But for the first time, it faced a reality it could not fully predict. Alara leaned back in her chair, exhausted but determined. The war was far from over, but humanity had discovered something vital. Its greatest strength was not in fleets, not in weapons, not in strategy. Its greatest strength was in its people, their choices, their courage, and their unpredictability. And that was a lesson no mind, no clone, no enemy commander could ever fully master. The war would continue. The battles would rage. The enemy would adapt. But humanity had found its path forward. And for the first time, there was hope. Alara closed her eyes for a moment, letting herself feel the weight of what had been accomplished. Not victory, not yet, but survival, insight, and the knowledge that even the most perfect mind could not overcome the chaos, courage, and will of humans. The message was clear. Humanity would fight. Humanity would endure. Humanity would survive. And that was something no enemy could ever take away.